Welcome to another episode, everyone. Asia's El Chapo. This individual masterminded a $21 billion empire. He alone was worth $21 billion. But check out how he masterminded this illicit trade across from where he was from, Asia. It's crazy.
How often do we say that a man just hit with a 16-year prison sentence is lucky? Not too often, but it's sure happening now. After a 14-year police investigation, a truly global manhunt, and 3 years of secret court hearings, the man pegged as the world's biggest
3 years of secret court hearings, a 14-year investigation. So they let him operate for a very long time. And then he ended up getting 16 years instead of a million life sentences. Somehow he got 16 years after masterminding.
drug lord was finally sentenced in court. But not to life in prison, as his crimes warranted, not even to the 25 years that his extradition deal allowed, but to 16 years, and even that comes with a huge twist that makes him look even luckier. I'm talking about the outcome in Australia for a notorious Chinese-born Canadian who was named as the undisputed head of a wildly successful multi-billion-dollar drug syndicate, a man named Tse Chi Lop. He's referred to as the most important organized crime figure that most people hadn't heard of. But he is much better known these days after headlines around the world called him Asia's El Chapo while he was a most wanted fugitive. The mob reporter here with news on the downfall, for now, of Tse Chi Lop, whose methamphetamine empire virtually cornered the market across the Asia-Pacific region, the biggest drug market on Earth, and about the evidence against him heard in secret that can now be told, including news of a snitch. Let me tell you about it.
Always a snitch involved. Always a snitch involved.
What you see here is exclusive video of Tse Chi Lop being arrested at an Amsterdam airport in January 2021. It was exclusive to the mob reporter at the time, and I still haven't seen it anywhere else. It's confirmed authentic and legitimate. The arrest was a milestone moment. For years it seemed that Tse Chi Lop would never again be pinched by police as he jetted around out of reach, always a step or two ahead of authorities in a dozen countries who had banded together to try to catch him. That international effort was extraordinary. Called Operation Sam Gor, it was an unprecedented...
A dozen countries banded together trying to catch him. 14 years it took him. 14 years. He still was living his life having fun. A billionaire running some in-depth operations, man.
Unprecedented interagency anti-narcotics investigation encompassing some 30 police agencies on 3 continents. It made strange bedfellows of world governments, including China, United States, Australia, Canada, Myanmar, Japan, Thailand, Taiwan, and many others. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime was involved as well. Australia took the lead, though. The country had been hit hard by Tse's pipeline and had been gathering evidence for years. Now these scenes are of Tse Chi Lop being extradited from the Netherlands to Australia just before Christmas in 2022. To understand how big a deal that was, consider the scope of the operation pinned on Tse. Officials said his revenue exceeded the GDP of some of the countries where he operated. He was accused of building what is widely regarded as the biggest drug trafficking operation in Asia's history. Once again, a drug kingpin was being measured against the yardstick of El Chapo Guzman, but this time, the comparison seemed insulting to Tse Chi Lop rather than insulting to El Chapo. Tse is credited with masterminding an alliance of 5 triad crime groups in Asia. Many of them were deadly rivals, but together, they reached heights none could reach on their own. His other innovation was
So he brought some gangs together as one that used to be deadly rivals. But together, they reach heights that they can never reach individually, as individual gangs. When they came together, they reached certain heights. When they came together, not that you should come together for something like this, but it just shows the strength in unity, the power in unity. That's all. Obviously, the energy with that unity could and should be put towards something else, something more productive than this, but I'm just saying, come together.
Mastering global logistics, adaptability, and modern business efficiency. Basically, he made the Amazon of dope. Some called their syndicate the company because for them it was run as a business. For police, it became known as the Sam Gor syndicate. Sam Gor is Cantonese for brother number 3, or less evocatively, the third brother, which was one of Tse Chi Lop's nicknames. The syndicate controlled perhaps half or more of all meth moving through the Asia-Pacific region, along with unhealthy portions of the heroin, fentanyl, and ecstasy trades. The syndicate was worth as much as $21 billion by the UN's estimate. Now briefly, Tse Chi Lop was born in 1963 in Guangdong province, and he joined an organized crime gang there called, in English, the Big Circle Boys. He moved to Hong Kong and then, at the age of 25, immigrated to Canada with his fiancée in 1988. Tse and his wife were married in Toronto and had 2 children, a daughter and then a son. His son had health issues from birth. In Canada, he learned important lessons on cooperation over confrontation from Canada's most successful mafia clan, the Rizzuto family, based in Montreal. In the 1990s, Tse worked with the mafia to smuggle heroin from Asia's Golden Triangle into Canada and then south into the United States. He was eventually arrested alongside Rizzuto mafiosi in 1998 and did time in a U.S. prison where he made new connections with fellow inmates who also specialized in drugs. Once out of prison and returned to Canada in 2006, he saw changes in the global drug trade and shifted to meet them, largely switching to synthetic drugs. The syndicate built industrial-scale manufacturing facilities in the Shan State, in Asia's Golden Triangle, which is as much a no-man's land as there is. The mountainous, remote corner of Myanmar is a largely rural area protected by warlords and private armies, perfect for a wealthy, ambitious drug lord. They used distinctive packaging, brightly colored bags claiming to contain loose-leaf tea, a perfect cover for an Asian product. Tse spread his influence far and wide, while keeping himself nearly invisible. Record-breaking loads linked to the Sam Gor syndicate kept flooding Australia and many other countries too. Some were caught, including this 903-kilo catch hidden in floorboards in 2017 in Australia. Other record loads were seized in Japan, in Indonesia, Malaysia, New Zealand, in Cambodia, Vietnam, and on it went. The syndicate had an ace card against competitors. They guaranteed.
Look at all of this stuff. These dudes pushing a lot of. They got bags and truckloads of this shit. When he got all that money, man, this is crazy.
Delivery. In the drug world, that meant if law enforcement seized a shipment, the syndicate would replace it, free of charge. It may seem like bad business, but when the markup on your product is as high as theirs was, if only 1 in a dozen loads get through, there was profit still to be made. While other crime groups were fighting over territory or spilling blood over a missing shipment, Tse floated above the fray and offered something each of them needed: smooth, safe logistics. But nothing lasts forever. It was Australia's request for an Interpol Red Notice seeking the arrest of Tse Chi Lop that triggered his detention in Amsterdam. Tse had been living comfortably in Taiwan, in this pleasant Taipei neighborhood, and remained there during COVID lockdowns until things opened up enough to kick him out. He was trying to head back to Canada, but rather than be allowed to board the direct flight he wanted, he was forced onto a later flight that had a stopover in the Netherlands. His lawyer said that was a conspiracy between Australian police and the Dutch to grab Tse before he reached Canada. He's probably right. His objections in Dutch court, though, didn't lead to his freedom, but it did delay his extradition for almost 2 years. When that extradition came, it was a momentous moment. That's what we see here. He was paraded triumphantly through the airport under armed guard, with his face blurred by Australian authorities, certainly not by me. But after this spectacle, he disappeared. I don't mean in the fugitive sense, but in the official secret sense. Court proceedings against Tse took place behind closed doors in Melbourne. No one outside of senior legal, police, and government officials knew anything about what was happening inside, and it stayed that way for 3 long years. Then, on December 4th, the court in Melbourne was finally opened. Reporters could finally lay eyes on brother number 3, and what they saw was a slight man, now 62 years old, even grayer and thinner. According to local accounts, Tse sat quietly in court, his head down, wearing heavy framed glasses, and listening to a Cantonese interpreter. He showed no emotion. Court revealed that Tse had agreed to plead guilty to conspiring to traffic commercial quantities of methamphetamine. What wasn't said was much at all about the evidence against him. So what happened behind the closed doors? Well, I know a bit of it. Tse had been a crafty cat as a drug lord, isolating himself as much as he could. He knew authorities couldn't prove everything they alleged. He denied being a world-class drug lord. Australian police had strong evidence on a small bit of his operation, some evidence on a lot of his organization, and hard-to-prove allegations about the whole epic enchilada. Prosecutors focused on the sure thing, and that was his role in a specific drug importation scheme into Australia. It was a case that had led to police raids, arrests, and seizures in 2013. What you see here is video and images from that investigation. They had 2 things in that case that made a successful prosecution seem likely, and I'm told both came down to Tse Chi Lop. What's that? Who? Well, at one time, Tse Chi Lop ran an Asian grocery store in a Melbourne suburb, but at some point had diversified into drugs. Tse Chi was born in Vietnam during the trauma of the Vietnam War and fled his home at the age of 12 and settled with his family in Australia as refugees. But as an adult businessman, he drew attention to himself for his apparent unexplained wealth and his interactions with suspected members of the Italian mafia, outlaw bikers, and Asian crime figures. The Australian Federal Police placed telephone wiretap intercepts and surveillance devices throughout much of 2012, which revealed that Tse Chi used 60 different cell phones and SIM cards to discuss business. 60. Imagine keeping those numbers straight. That police investigation was codenamed Operation Volante. You see images from that here. Drugs, cash, cars, casino chips, and other property that was eventually seized. But before those successes, the wiretaps were picking up conversations that were routinely in code. They referred to going shopping when they really meant sending money, and of fast cars, which meant meth, which is a drug sometimes called speed. The police pieced together that Tse Chi was arranging with the Sam Gor syndicate to buy significant shipments of 2 types of meth every couple of months between April and December 2012. The drugs were smuggled into Australia, warehoused in Sydney, and doled out to Tse Chi's couriers to smuggle it 550 miles southwest to Melbourne. There were 5 smuggling trips arranged between Australia's 2 largest cities, and police intercepted each courier along the way. 4.6 kilos of pure meth in April, 3.6 kilos in May, and so on, busted and bagged. The cumulative retail street value of the losses came to about $13 million. Now, remember the Sam Gor guarantee of delivery? Yes. Tse Chi reported back to Hong Kong and claimed against Tse's organization, and that's the kind of repeated loss that gets a boss's attention. On wiretaps, police captured conversations between Tse Chi and the Sam Gor syndicate, and they found the bigwig in Melbourne sounded cautious and deferential when he spoke. On those wiretaps, police captured the rare voice of Tse Chi Lop. Tse was linked to the movement of drugs into Australia and the movement of money out to Hong Kong using Australian casinos. Tse Chi eventually pleaded guilty to charges of trafficking and conspiracy to import a commercial quantity of drugs. In 2015, he was sentenced to 25 years in prison. And when it came to putting Tse on trial, they returned to Operation Volante and the evidence it gleaned to build the case against the alleged international kingpin. There was, of course, the wiretap with Tse on it, but there was also a snitch. I'm told it was Tse Chi Lop. That would make sense. He was never happy with his long sentence. But whatever the evidence, Tse was convinced he couldn't beat it.
Whatever the reason is, it never fails. There's always someone close to you. I mean, this is an empire anyway, and, so this is not something that I'm sanctioning or approving of what this individual is alleged to have done, because a lot of people die from these drugs. But he had an intricate system transporting to Australia and wherever else, and then this guy here, who's involved with him, making money as well, billions of dollars. He's not happy with his sentence, which was 25 years. So he ends up snitching, allegedly.
And that led to the plea negotiation. At Tse's sentencing, the judge said he was handcuffed by an unusual extradition deal that Australia's Attorney General struck with Dutch authorities to clear the way for his extradition. Australia had taken a life sentence off the table. The judge called Tse's business pure evil. He said that Tse's remorse seemed more about the impact of it all on him, not on the damage he caused others and to the community. Now, if Tse had shown emotion, it might have been one of relief. He surely realized how lucky he was. After all the headlines, all the jubilation over his capture, despite the size of the operation pinned on him around the world, Tse wasn't sentenced to life in prison. Not even, really, to the 16 years. Here's what happened. The judge deducted time served since his arrest from the tally. That's 698 days from his arrest to his extradition, and another 1,077 days from his extradition until his sentencing. That subtracts 4 years and 10 months from the sentence. What's more, the judge said Tse could apply for parole after 10 years. So that means, if he is lucky again, he could be on a plane back to Canada in October 2030, where he would land as a free man. Please tap the thanks button to leave me a tip for my no robot.
So that's 2030. That's in 4 years. He can be home. It's crazy, the way that crime works and the way that the laws work. I mean, it looked like maybe he was in Asia or something, but it's still the same laws where something like this, you get 10 years, 16 years in this case. But, being involved in an empire, transporting tons of illegal drugs, tons, killing tons of people. Then you get somebody that's still a candy bar or a robbery or whatever, and you get life in prison, the way that the laws work. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. This is crazy. The Asian El Chapo worth $21 billion. He had an intricate operation. He's obviously extremely intelligent. He brought those gangs together. I mean, they ran like Amazon. And clearly was successful. And then, when it was all said and done, he still came out. He still obviously has a lot of money. There's no way they got all this money. And he's coming home in 4 years, possibly, when it's all said and done. So even though he's doing time in prison, if he's still a billionaire, then who really won in this situation? He's still going to come home and live out the rest of his life rich. Let me know what you think in the comments. Stay safe and stay free, people.